Thank you, everybody. Welcome to Still I Rise, being Veronica Alease Davis. It is so nice to have everybody here with us today, and I am so happy to have with us. Oh, someone just near and dear to my heart because I always see her when I really need somebody to lift up my spirits, and that is the Sheila Arnold.
Thank you.
And when I saw you and you said, "Hey, Veronica Davis," we go way back. I was like, "What?" Thank you.
Yeah.
How have you been doing? And thank you so much for being here with us today. Because I just love you some Sheila Arnold.
Well, I'm doing great. Glad to be able to be on your podcast here, and glad that you have this. It's wonderful, and I am doing really well. Very busy. I am. For those who don't know, I'm a professional storyteller and performer. So we just finished up this past weekend our second annual Hampton Storytelling Festival here in Hampton, Virginia. And it was amazing, absolutely amazing. And so I'm a little tired. So if I look a little tired, it's because I am a little tired. But I am here and glad to share and to talk with you, Veronica, and anybody else that happens to be listening. So
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I think, did we meet at Colonial Williamsburg?
we may have. I'm not exactly certain. It's been a long
Corey,
time.
Corey says, "Mom, how do you know her? How do you know her?" And look, y'all, just so y'all know, I need a makeup artist. I'm telling y'all, I need a makeup artist. Corey says, he said, "Mama, I can't do it all. I can't do the lashes, the lipstick." And we go live, and he gonna bring me lipstick. This is why it's called being Veronica Davis, because I'm real, okay? There's nothing
Absolutely,
fake
absolutely.
about me. I am real.
Okay. Can you hear me? Okay, I had to turn my fan on for a little bit because I had that moment.
Yes,
So
yes,
you
we
okay?
can hear you.
Okay, good.
Okay, so now I was trying to put the pieces together because Corey says, "Mom, where do you know her from?" And I said, well, Miss Arnold has been doing storytelling for so long. I said, Corey, I could have met her at one of the library conferences.
Yes. Mhm.
She could have come to perform at one of the libraries, at one of the city events, Colonial Williamsburg, because you did work at Colonial
Yep.
Williamsburg, right?
I worked for Colonial
Hmm.
Williamsburg for 9 years. Yes.
And I said, so it could have been, any one of those arenas, but I think we've probably seen each other in the other arenas, but I think we formally met each other at Colonial Williamsburg.
Okay. Okay. I'll go
Hmm.
for that.
Hmm. And when you said, I have to laugh because things that I've always wanted to get into, I've either gotten a job in them to learn
Uh-huh.
them, or I had to go to school. But and you can take courses in storytelling and that sort of thing. But really, to be honest with you, it's kind of what you told me when I asked you, okay, what does a storyteller do, and how do you learn to do that? And I think I can recall you saying, Veronica, it comes from the heart. So I want you to talk about your creative process. How did
Okay.
you get into being a storyteller?
Okay. Turning the fan back off here. So, how did I get into being a storyteller? Well, that's a story in and of itself. So, but I always tell people that, and the truth is that I grew up in a family that told stories a lot. Besides the fact that it's a family that likes to talk, my mom and my dad always told stories at dinner table, and we had our dinners every night together. So I was always telling stories and or always hearing stories from my parents. And by the time that we were in school, by the time that we were starting to go to school, their expectation level was that we would answer the question, "What happened at school today?" And we didn't do that with just or "How was school today?" It wasn't just fine. The expectation level was there would be some kind of story. So I learned that really quick on, and then I love to read books. My parents loved to read books, And oops, okay, got half my head here. Let me get a little bit more, little more or less of my head. Here we go. Okay. I don't know how that's going to work. We're going to figure it out. Sorry about that spot right behind me. I don't know how to get rid of that one. Let's see. I can go this way. No, that way. Okay. Anyhow, moving on to the stories. It just is what it is. That's all I can say. so uh and so I've always had kind of stories around my life, and I wrote stories when I was young. I wrote stories as I got older. I shared those stories. But when my son was born, he's 38 now. So when he was born those many years ago, I wanted to find some ways to be involved in his where he went to school with his daycares and such like that. And so I asked them, because I had kind of crazy hours, if I could come in or I was going to keep them at home, and they didn't like that at all. Daycares do not like for you to keep children at home. So it's like, no, I'll bring them in. And so I said, well, I'm going to come in with them then on these days that I have off and do something. And so they set me down and said, go tell some stories. And I did. And they were awful. I hated the stories. I hate the books that they had. I was like, ugh. And I was telling stories to my son all the time. I was making up stories and songs on a constant basis. And so I just started telling some of those. And people were stopping to ask, where'd you get that story? And I'm like, I made it up. Where'd you get that song? I made it up. I thought that's what everybody did. I really did. I thought that's what every person did. Didn't know that's not what every person does. And eventually they would pass around my name into another daycare, and then when he got into school, and then the teachers would pass around my name, and then to a library. And so it was until I got to Colonial Williamsburg in '96, and then they paid me to tell stories. So that was a pretty good deal. I like that. Or '97 actually. So they paid me to tell stories, and then just it grew from there. And in 2003, God opened the door and said, it's time for you to go out. And so I did. And so I've been performing for the last 21 years around the United States and also internationally.
Wow. Take me with you, girl.
I have a lot of people willing to jump in the suitcase or be the valet or security guard when I go on the trips. That is for sure. Yeah, it's kind of funny. It's kind of fun.
Tell me, what is one of the countries that you have gone to? Have you been to Africa or to London? Where have you gone?
Well, I had the joy of went to where I used to go to church. We went on mission trips. So I had the opportunity to go over to Malawi, which is a small country on the eastern side of Africa, a
Yeah.
very small country. And it was wonderful. And I got to do storytelling there, which was lovely because they were very affected by AIDS. So there was a generation almost lost there.
Wow.
And in that, they lost a lot of the storytelling that was being done. And so I wasn't really good at the evangelism using these, very, follow these particular scriptures in the Bible. But I was really good at saying, let me tell you a story. And I
Mm-hmm.
could tell a story, and that's how I would begin and share. And then the interpreters we had loved it. They would forget sometimes to interpret because they were loving the story so much. And so I ended up teaching storytelling to them
Mm-hmm.
and such. So it's been really fun. And then I've been in England and told stories there. One of my best friends went to England, got stationed. Her husband got stationed there, and she was there. So I came over, and then we got worked with storytellers there. And then most recently, last November, I was in the Netherlands and told stories at the Amsterdam Storytelling Festival, International Storytelling Festival. That was amazing. So that's what I've done. Oh, I can't hear you for some reason.
We better off than we were last week.
Yeah, yes, we were. That's right. That's right.
So, I am noticing that we do have people that are popping in and out
Okay.
on the thing. That's really good. I'm trying to watch both screens over here, so that's really good. We're trying to get confirmation, because this is the first time we've been in this format. It's a new production piece for us. So we're trying to get confirmation on being live on Facebook and being live on YouTube as well. But at
Okay.
the end, this will be uploaded to YouTube if not. Okay, so he says we are live on Facebook. Thank you, Facebook.
Well, all righty. I
Finally.
love it. We're live on Facebook. Hey,
I'm so
Facebook.
happy. Because Facebook drove me crazy last week.
Absolutely. It was doing its thing.
So we talked about some of the creative processes, and we've talked about some of the places that you have gone, because literally you took this from something where you were doing with your son at his daycare or at his school, and you have turned it into a business.
Yes.
And one of the things here on this show about being Veronica Davis is I try to make sure that I'm making that connection. You know, how do I heal? How do I get back? And when you surround yourself with successful people,
Mm-hmm.
okay, you find yourself walking in those steps towards success. You see what I'm saying? And you have to surround yourself with people who are business minded, you know, handling things. So when you have questions, you can ask questions. So when you decided to make this a business, did you go to SCORE? Did you go to SBA? How, not giving me too much detail, okay, but what was your process? What was your mindset in deciding to make this a business?
None of that. I mean, literally none of that. What really happened was in the position that I had at Colonial Williamsburg, I was sending people on the road and doing contracts with sending some of our performers on the road to various places. And we hit a point where I was told that we were no longer going to send anybody on the road again. But I had made contracts that were for 3 years. And all of a sudden I had to say, we're not going to do this contract. Well, the first thing people asked me was, well, then who does this work? You know, and I was like, I don't know. I can do some of this work. And so I no longer, there was no competition because, Colonial Williamsburg wasn't going to do it. And so I volunteered, well, not volunteered, I worked with the company to be able to bring them a show. And that, and so I was doing that, and someone decided that me planning to do a show and bringing some other people on board was a conflict of interest and reported me to HR.
Oh my goodness. See how
And
they
HR met with me and I said, yes, I did that. Yes, I did ask some people to do this. Yes, I did not ask anybody to get off on a day. There is no competition because we no longer do this. I said, nope, that's a conflict of interest. You should have, we need to investigate this, and we're going to have you be off for, a couple days. And I was furious. But when I went home, what I did with that furious is I wrote my business plan.
Right. There it is. Number one, business plan.
I just wrote a business plan. Didn't even know how to write a business plan, but I just wrote a business plan. I wrote down what I wanted to do, what I wanted to see happen, how I wanted to see this happen, what I would call it. That I knew nothing at that point. Right. And except that moment. And when they brought me back, they said, well, it's really not a conflict of interest. I said, that's good. I said, but she should have never sent me home.
Yeah.
And so I literally was ready to resign. And a friend of mine, and I did. And I said, I'm going to resign. And a friend of mine said, would you stay with me at Colonial Williamsburg for one more year in a different position? It's going to be my last year and you would be really helpful. And I was like, okay, I'll stay, and I'm going to be doing these other things as well. And so I did. At the same time that was going on, I was attending First Baptist Church King Street in Hampton, Virginia. And I did a set of programs for Lenten and the women were there. And one woman programs that ended up being one woman's programs for Lenten services once a week for the Lenten time. And then afterwards, people would discuss, and I'd worked with someone to develop questions and such. And that got picked up by the Daily Press. It got picked up because I mean, it started out as a small audience until we had standing room only, and people were
Wow.
coming. And I was like, so they did a whole article on me on the, got on the front of the entertainment section, and pictures above the fold, the whole bit. I was like, whoa, and I knew. I said, that's what God's planning for me to do. I'm going to be doing these.
Hmm.
And so I was ready. So 2003, when I left Colonial Williamsburg, I was going to do these women from these one person shows, and we had Hurricane Isabel,
Oh yes.
and every contact I had developed up to that point was gone. I couldn't contact anybody. I didn't have any, I didn't have the ability to do anything. And
Yeah.
so I ended up going, oh my goodness, I can't do any of this thing. I couldn't do this. I couldn't do the, I couldn't do the, I couldn't do the business plan. I
Hmm.
couldn't do the women in his, the women for the
Hmm.
Bible.
Hmm.
I was like, what did you have me do? But I didn't want to go back to Colonial Williamsburg. So I said, let me see if I can get a job. And I did. And I worked as a substitute teacher. Ended up spending most of my time at Jones Middle School, Magnet School.
Hmm.
Sorry, wrong. Yeah, Jones. Yeah, Jones Magnet School. And yeah, and then they found out I told stories there, and I told stories for the kids. Uh, but I wanted to continue to try to do this. Well, all that was a blessing. Every single thing. And I think if I had anything to say to somebody, is just don't continue pushing toward what you want to do, because you don't know if the thing that you might have to do for a while is also a blessing. So I started working in the school, and I did really well. I was, they asked me at the end of the school year, I was teaching math of all things, which I did not want to be, but I did. And at the end of the school year, the principal brought me in and said, would you be willing to go to school? Would be willing to pay, and you can teach here. And I was like, no. She said, no, I don't want to do that. And she said, really? We would. I'm like, I don't want to do that. And not long after that, Colonial Williamsburg Teachers Institute contacted me and said, would you like to come work with us and do some work? And I
Hmm.
did. And
Hmm.
so I quit that first year. And very quickly, I realized that teachers listened to me because I had been a teacher.
Hmm.
So now I was like, oh, I didn't have any of this before. I got this now. And they're like, oh, yeah, we want, oh, you get it. You get it. And so that was really amazing. And then because I worked for Colonial Williamsburg Teacher Institute, every now and then I got to tell a story. And
Hmm.
I got my first gigs from that. So that was only during the summer that we did the Teacher Institute. So I had the rest of the year. And by the time I ended that first year, that first summer, I already had gigs on the books, and they just came hard and heavy after that. And it was really, I mean, because they were like, oh, we've seen you, so we'll invite you to our school. Do you travel? I'm like, yes, I do, because
That's right.
yeah,
We don't say no to nothing.
but I didn't know anything. I mean, I was like, okay, start a business. What a EIN? What is that? And so luckily went down. Somebody said go downtown. Go to the building and ask them. Just ask the question, and they had everything there for me basically. So that made it very easy for me to do. And so I was very fortunate, though. I was very fortunate that I worked really quickly and got into schools very quickly because I was meeting teachers every year for 5 years every summer and going to their schools.
Wow. That is amazing. And even just there's your networking piece right there, is being able to go out to those schools and meet people. And I love Colonial Williamsburg. I had one of the funniest stories in the world is I remember being in college
Mhm.
and people really don't know how naive I really am. But what happened was I kept seeing this lady come in, and I swear, I mean, I'm trying to figure out what do you do to her hair. She's always wearing this thing on her head. So I came home and I told my grandmother, I said, Nana, there's this lady in class. I think she's a hobo because wears this thing on her head, and she's wearing these tattered clothes, and oh my god. And so my grandma said, what do you mean? I said, they don't even look like your 1970 collection. They look old. I mean, like the pictures in that book. Yeah, and she said, what book? I said, I don't know, maybe the history book at school. And so she said, I said, I want to take her some clothes. So my grandmother had a whole collection of 1970s. She had the polyester going on, honey child, the paisleys and everything. So she said, well, let's give her some clothes. So I took about 3 or 4 outfits, put them in the car, took them over to the university. I studied computers under Alveda Yule's brother. Or
Okay.
his brother-in-law, maybe, I guess, I don't know, okay? But I know that they were kin to each other. And it was so hilarious. I went over to her and I said, excuse me. I said, I don't want to talk around everybody. Can we talk? She says, oh, no, 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 no. And, they were all laughing, giggling because, everybody was older than Veronica. I was
Yeah.
really young. And so she, she says, yeah, go on ahead. Just, I said, well, I told my grandmother that you were, homeless and that you needed clothes. And I said, so I have some clothes out in the car for you. Everybody cracked up laughing. And so she says, oh, I work at Colonial Williamsburg. And I said, well, they should treat you much better than they do. They should give you better clothes. And so, people were looking at me
That's
like,
good.
they were going like this. I had no clue what that place was. So I said, oh my God, Nana, she works over there at Colonial Williamsburg. I can't imagine them making her dress like that to work every day. We should say something to somebody. So, if ever they say something about a crazy woman calling and complaining about the way their employees were dressed, that would be a reason. Now, here's the thing. Brought me to tears, okay? Brought me straight to tears. I happened to go over there and once again, I get out the car and I'm a grown woman, okay? I get out the car and I'm walking. I said, oh, look at all of the cute little people in those little outfits. They look like artists. I walked in. For anybody would think I'm making this up, trust me, this is called being Veronica Davis. I'm trying to tell y'all. When y'all see me show up at City Hall, here we go. Okay. Every time I've shown up and said, here we go. Okay. So it's that naivety. So I'm going in and I sit down and we're doing this little orientation thing, and it's so funny. Oh my God, I'm trying. Look, don't laugh when my lashes fall off, okay? Y'all got me crying. And I'm sitting there and they start showing the video, and oh my God, that was the homeless woman. I said, oh my goodness. And so I said, can I ask a question? And what was that man's name? What was the guy's name that was over the African American? Not the one whose name began with the E.
Rex
But,
Ellis?
not Rex, but the other guy.
Mm.
I can't remember his name. Oh my God. Bob Studi was there, and the other guy. I can't remember the other guy's
Martin
name.
Bakari?
Who? Yes, Bacardi. Yes, him. Oh my God. He said, yes, Veronica, tell me, what is your question? And I said, that lady who was walking with the brown thing on her head, who is that? And I said, I remember her wearing them clothes. She looked homeless. I thought she was homeless. And these people were looking at me like I'm crazy. And so I said, he looks at me, he says, that's Christy Coleman. And I said, huh? He said, that's Christy Coleman. She was the former director. Never knew, okay? Never knew. Christy Coleman was the one that I thought was the homeless student
Wow.
in my class, in my computer class. Okay. So this is how small our world is. And
Yeah.
when people are sitting there saying, well, how do you know this person? How do you know that person? I try to tell, when people come to y'all and say, Veronica this, you just stop and say, look, Veronica is one short of a cuckoo. No, Veronica has a good heart. And she sometimes doesn't understand stuff or how things work, but Veronica has a good heart. Just say that. Okay, because really, in all honesty, it is true. Because I could have sat and talked about her, being homeless as a student, but instead I tried to find a solution.
Yeah.
You know, I went out to try to get her some food and some clothes. Because you at Hampton University, I can't make you look the part of my grandmama's clothes, but
Yeah.
but, but at least I'm offering you something. So that I wanted to say that, but also the point I was going to make about our larger institutions was that is how we lose good people. Okay, and I will tell you that is also how they lost me. Okay, and I loved when I tell you I loved being at Colonial Williamsburg, because I love the be able to dramatize the my situation, going through the house. I was at the Randolph House,
Okay.
and I love to use my voice to change up things, to add to the story. Can you smell it? And you probably couldn't smell that nutmeg at all. By the time the day was done,
That's right.
the cooks didn't like me too much, because I would just find something random to throw out there, and they would have to race over to try to grab it and do something with it. But the people were seeing them in action. But when one of the people recognized my cross stitch, okay, and I love cross stitching. And when one of them recognized my cross stitch, and they wanted me to um, come to the Smithsonian Institute to do
Mm.
a presentation, I'll never forget it. And what came back was, no, we need her here. Excuse me? You can't do without me for one day? Well, guess what? No, we out. Okay, because when you are only paying people a certain amount, because you are a foundation, your budget is determined by grants and giving and donations. You have to be flexible in allowing those people to go out and make extra money. Okay, what makes corporations great is the people having an understanding of their staff.
Yeah.
That is what makes corporations great. And missing Veronica for maybe 1 or 2 days, that would not have harmed anything. Okay.
Absolutely.
So, and then, then they started switching up to having us to be the people that let folks into the gate. And, I have to be honest with you. Interpreter was my limit. Okay. I'm not willing to be the ticket taker. Okay. I have books all the way around the world. You know, I have a higher calling. You know, um, I'm not going to reduce myself down to being a ticket taker. I'm just not going to do that. And you're not going to increase the pay for me doing 2 jobs. No, no, no. So we have, as business owners, we have to take those things into mind. So I hope everybody found that very funny. But other than the experience I just shared with you, what 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 was your most memorable experience?
At Colonial Williamsburg.
And storytelling in general. Don't give me
Oh,
headache over
in
there.
general. Well, I have. I've been really privileged to have some wonderful experiences. I suppose one of them is I don't get to do as much storytelling in my own community, in the Black community, and that's because we don't know storytelling. We think of storytelling as being something where someone sits in a chair and they read you a book, and it's the librarian or
Right.
something like that, and that is not it at all. So or they've seen some storytelling, but it hasn't necessarily been good storytelling.
Mhm.
And so what I do is I tell stories for all ages, and I tell it what my goal is to give you an oral. It's almost like an oral movie. That's what I tell people. So what I see in my head, I use the words that will help you to see that in your head, so that you can hear it through your ears and then see it in your head. And so that is part of what I do. I also add historical things to that as well. So I get not always, but just I have a wide range of stories to tell. But going to being in the Black community is always a joy because when they find storytelling in the Black community, I mean, when they like, oh my gosh, this is it gets exciting. So one of the times that I was in a church, in a Black church, First Baptist Church, Warrenton, I won't forget that, and I started to do a story, and I started with the story, and I started off by singing "Wade in the Waters." I'm starting to sing "Wade in the Water." Well, Lord knows the pianist jumped to the piano. I mean, jumped to the piano, jumped over to the piano, started playing. I'm like, oh. And it was like, oh, this has never happened to me before. And I realized that I had never been back in the Black community, back in the Black church, and that's nothing. But for that moment right there, the first time, like they're like, oh, okay, and I was like, all right. And then I got really good background music off of that. I was like, oh, but it was such a delight to be able to bring that to to my community, my people, and then realize they were like, oh my goodness, this was something more than they had thought about. So that was really great. And then my other not most memorable, I probably have lots, but the one that haunts my heart more than anything is I was at a school, and they had a lot of children, and on the front row were kindergartners. And as I was talking, and sometimes this happens, but as I was talking this particular time, I was looking and I could hear somebody repeating my words. And I was just like, okay. And I was trying to figure out where it was. Well, in the front row was an African American little girl, and she loved what I was doing. But what was happening to her, she was hearing these words and she would just have to repeat them. And she was doing it quiet enough. And once I recognized who was doing it, I was like, okay, and I moved on, but I didn't catch her. I looked at her one moment too long. I was not upset at her, but her teacher realized that she was talking. So her teacher came over, took her by the arm and said, you have to leave because you can't be quiet. And I was wounded because I realized that, and I didn't know what the words were to say. I was right in the middle of something, and I couldn't turn quick enough, and I couldn't say, no, she's fine. She's good. She's doing exactly what she's supposed to do. She's letting the words cover her, and they took that little girl out, and they never brought her back in. And I thought, I couldn't fix that. And I determined at that moment that I would never let a teacher, a person, just move a kid out without trying to work something through first. Because I think of that little girl and I go, she probably never saw reading and listening to stories as anything positive again. Maybe she did, but it still haunts my heart. So I make sure that I try to stay in there with the kids. So, that when kids act like kids, that I can defend them.
Right.
Kids. And then when I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I mean, there's times that I've said something and I didn't realize a kid that was autistic, and he was getting a little loud, but he was getting loud because I was getting loud. And so as I got louder, he got louder. And finally I said, young man, you need to move to the back. But that crushed him. He wasn't trying to do anything. He was actively listening, but I didn't get his listening style. And so when I said what I said, and then moved him. So afterwards, I went to the teacher and said, went to the principal actually and said, I wasn't trying to be harsh. But I saw her look in her eyes, said, I came off harsh. She said, yeah. I said, oh my goodness, what can I do to fix it? She says, there's nothing you can do now, but just know that there's lots of different ways of learning.
Mhm.
And so I've had those moments along the way, and just to remind myself that what I'm giving, sometimes it's heard differently or through different ears, and it's just really, really being cognizant of my audience as I'm going along, and being careful with them. So I have a really great time. Those are some of my favorites, and I love doing. I do character work. I do with people in history, and now I'm doing a lot more historical research, and then turning those into programming. And that has been a joy, to be able to get those kind of commissions and do that kind of work. So,
Thank you so much for your patience. This would not be being Veronica Davis if we didn't have one or two errors throughout this show. Just one or two errors. All right. I'm going to, I think she's ready to come back at the stage.
sorry. So,
All right.
started a new health thing
You
today.
got to
So,
unmute
I
yourself. I
have,
hope you can hear me.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. All
Okay.
right.
So
My
I started a new
my
health thing today. So I have had more water than I can shake a stick at. So it's just running through me here. Lord have
my
mercy.
my eldest son is, I hope everybody can hear me good.
Yep,
Yes.
I can hear you.
Okay. My eldest son has, I don't know if I'm supposed to say it or not, so I'm gonna say it like this. He's taking a major trip. And so he was, I think he was trying to call to touch bases with us to let us know that, he's going to be heading out. So I'm like, okay, why are you calling now? right when right when the show is going on.
Amen. It happens. It
I tell
happens.
you, these kids, they don't know that umbilical cord has been cut. It's like they're still in the womb. You understand? They come when they want.
Amen. That is true. That is true.
Well, I will tell you, Sheila Arnold, it has been a great joy to have you here on this show. I do hope that you will return because we want to hear about things that you have coming up and more of your adventures. Do you have anything that's coming up? And please tell our viewers how they can go about contacting you.
Well, that's a great question. That's yes, I do actually. I am. You can contact me or find out more about me at www.misssheila.org. MSSHEILA.org. And on there is my calendar, so you can always look on there to see my calendar. And I do have a program coming up and I'm actually going to go to my own calendar here to make sure I say it correctly. Excuse me, everybody. And on August, I think it's the 3rd, Saturday the 3rd, I think so. Yes, I go to the calendar. So it's really good to be able to do this. And I thank you to my wonderful, amazing assistant, Tamma Lunsford, who keeps me straight. On Saturday, August 3rd at 1 p.m., I will be at Virginia Jamestown, at Jamestown Settlement, and doing one of, I don't know. Oh, I'm doing a storytelling program called African American Stories Keeping Heritage Alive, and then I'm also doing One Judge Historic Character Presentation. So
Wow.
I'll be there doing a 1 o'clock program and then a 3 o'clock program, and that's Jamestown Settlement at 2110 Jamestown Road, Williamsburg, Virginia. And I don't know if there's a cost, so you'd have to go and check on that. And that is and I have some private programs I'm doing. I'm also doing, if you are at all interested, anyone, starting next Tuesday at 7 o'clock p.m., I will be teaching Bible telling. And that will be going from 6:30 to 8. And you'll be able to learn how to tell stories of the Bible, also learn about things in the Bible, stories of the Bible. This particular session of of teaching is called Good News. And so that'll
Mhm.
be a focus, and you'll get a chance to learn stories, but also and tell stories, but also do activities, and we all learn together. So it's a lot of fun. And I am going to be teaching. I think I'm still debating on the date. I think it's going to end up being on Thursdays. Thursday evenings, I'm going to be starting I'm going to go ahead and put it out now. Thursday evenings, I'm going to start teaching a storytelling class.
Mm.
If you want to learn how to do storytelling, I'm going to be teaching a storytelling class, and that will start next Thursday. That is going to have a cost that is associated with it, and so if you'll check online at my website online on Facebook, then you'll be able to learn a little bit more about that. Bible telling, there's no cost. Anybody can come. I'm going to put the website, the link up so that people can come if they so desire. And but the one for storytelling is going to have a cost with it. Just haven't figured out that cost at this moment. So keep in touch with me, and I'll be able to tell you that.
All right.
That's it for me for a little bit. I am very excited about what is about to happen in January for me. I was
Mhm.
accepted by Monticello to be a fellow and do a fellowship work there,
Yay!
and I'll be a fellow in residence. And
Wow.
so I'm doing some research on one of the Black women there who told stories during Jefferson's time there at Monticello, and uh, really, there's a particular story that is known amongst African American storytellers that she may have been the one that actually created that story. So that's
Wow.
part of me doing the research on that. I'm very excited, and I'll be there the whole month of January in 2025.
Mhm.
Very excited about being able to do that kind of work, and we'll be doing an online program about that story, and so just keep your heads posted, and we'll see what date's going to be.
All right. Well, it has been a great delight to have you here. And to those that are just joining us, this will be airing again on YouTube as
Oh,
well as Facebook. Okay. Ms. Arnold, I'm going to see how I get a copy to you. Okay.
all
In
right,
case
that's good.
you post it somewhere. All right. And I can't tell y'all thank you enough. We will see you next week on Still I Rise, being Veronica Alease Davis. That's
Bye
all I
bye. Thanks,
want.
Veronica, for inviting me. I appreciate it.
You're so welcome. Be good now.